Oh boy, what do we make of this gem? The Tier 4 Premium Italian Cruiser GeNOva. Well, let's start off by taking a look at this clip. Hello, I am Xarkun, and this is World of Warships Legends. The very first thing that we should note about the GeNOva is that its guns take a whopping 20 seconds to reload, and that means it's perhaps not the most effective Tier 4 cruiser when it comes to dealing with destroyers. Take note of this Gaeta right in front of us, 7.5 kilometers away. We shoot a volley of AP at him and then promptly switch to the HE. We've got the 20-second reload on these guns, cut down to, I think, 19 seconds because we're using Francesco Mimbelli as our commander. Gaeta slipping behind the island. This shot is going to miss. I don't know if it was aimed poorly. I was kind of hoping for at least one hit. But take a look on my mini-map. Perhaps you'll notice it before I noticed it in this game. Guns are nearly reloaded. We get a spotting ribbon. Why do we get that? Because there's another destroyer right behind us. He starts shooting at us. That's when we notice him. It's a Bovoy, the Russian destroyer of that new destroyer line. Undoubtedly, he has launched torpedoes. Luckily, we do have sonar. We're able to turn away from the torpedoes quite easily. But this Bovoy is full health. He's shooting at us with his guns. And also the Gaeta, which is now behind us, is chiming in. The shots that we get on the Bovoy with our high explosive are underwhelming, to say the least. And you can see between this Bovoy and this Gaeta, and perhaps another cruiser, well, we're basically almost dead. And our guns are just now reloaded. Again, very unimpressive damage, so we have to resort to using torpedoes at suicidal range to take down this particular destroyer. And basically we're out of the game at this point. Exeter behind us. There's really no way we're going to be able to survive now, especially if they want to shoot HE at us. Yep, there you go, HE from another cruiser, and Exeter shoots AP. Our armor is good enough to bounce heavy cruiser AP at this tier from the Exeter when properly angled, but with 945 health, all they really need is a couple overpens, and we're out of this game pretty quickly. And you can see just how helpless it can feel to play this cruiser with the oppressively long reload. Let's talk a little bit more about it, try to give it a fairer shake in this game, which is actually a pretty good game where I guess I sort of carry it in this ship, but I think my carrying this game has less to do with how good this ship actually is, and a little bit more to do with the fact that I've got a lot of experience in this game. And this is low tier, so the enemies here, they're probably a little newer, probably a little greener, don't quite know exactly what they're doing yet. We can say one good thing about the GeNOva, at least, despite the fact that its guns have, as I said, an oppressively long 20-second reload. They are 203mm guns. And that makes the GeNOva unique at Tier 4, I do believe. The only other Tier 4 cruiser that has 203mm guns is, I think, the Furutaka. Although I don't play at Tier 4 too often, so I might be missing something, but I think it's just the GeNOva and the Furutaka. And now, the 203mm guns do have some benefits to them. For one, the AP, as you could get a taste of there, can be quite effective against broadside cruisers, but also 203mm armor piercing can overmatch 13mm of armor. And I'm pretty sure there are some pretty lightly armored cruisers at Tier 4 and certainly Tier 3 who probably have 13mm armor plating. I believe the Omaha is actually one of those, and we're going to see me face an Omaha in this game at some point and overmatch him and get Citadels. So That is nice, but the 20-second reload, well, I think it means you certainly don't want to get close in this cruiser at all. You want to play it at longer to medium range. If you get too close, you can get melted by HE. The thing really has no armor, 16mm plating everywhere, which means lots of places for high explosive to penetrate you, and I'm sure AP wouldn't have too difficult of a time from same tier cruisers if you aren't angling well enough. And don't even think about battleship AP, that'll just go right through that 16mm of armor. It does also have an exposed citadel, but the citadel plating is 70mm of armor, so theoretically you could angle that citadel belt plating against battleship caliber armor piercing and not get dev struck, but otherwise the battleship armor piercing is probably just going to go right through the 16mm plating all around the citadel armor and still hit you for a good amount of damage. So you really don't want to get shot in this thing. Another good thing about it, though, is the concealment is actually quite excellent. I've got it down to 8.2 kilometers because I have spec'd into it. The base concealment range is 9 kilometers. This probably makes it one of the stealthiest, if not the stealthiest cruiser at Tier 4. So at least it has that going for it. And as you saw in the beginning, it does have torpedoes. They've only got an 8-kilometer range. They're those Italian floating sea mines that travel through the water at a sluggish, sloth-like pace of 51 knots, so not very quick at all. About a 9K alpha strike, so they don't hit very hard either. And you basically just sort of throw them out there and forget. One nice thing, though, about this ship, because as you saw in the very beginning of this video, it's not necessarily the best ship for going toe-to-toe with destroyers. I think if I had been any other Tier 4 cruiser in that first clip, aside from the Monte Cuccioli, then I probably would have been able to dispatch with that Beauvois without having to resort to using torpedoes and actually killed him with my guns, and maybe I wouldn't have lost so much health because I would have killed the destroyers quicker. I don't know, it's just, again, the reload on this thing is oppressively slow. It does have sonar though, so at least you can see incoming torpedoes and maybe provide some utility for your team in spotting them with the sonar consumable. There's the Omaha right in front of us, pointing his bow straight at us, but again, I think the Omaha has 13mm of armor plating, so I do believe we can overmatch him. You can see the Omaha and Nevada are both headed toward our base, and I am concealed relatively close to them. They're only 10 kilometers away from me or so, but with the concealment range of 8 kilometers, I am able to comfortably launch these torpedoes from stealth. Obviously, since my detectability range is 8.2 and my torpedo range is 8, the only way to launch these from stealth is if ships are pushing into you. And, you know, they do have a pretty quick reload, too. I think they reload in 47 seconds, under a minute, so you can sling them out there all the time. And, you know, you can't sling this AP out there all the time, but as you could see there, it did overmatch the Omaha there. It hit him for a Citadel, and we should be able to do that again. Here, coming up now, let's see what RNG tells us. Overmatch, but no Citadel that time. Luckily, one more shot and that Omaha should be taken out, not exactly making it difficult for us, giving that kind of broadside. I think he's going to miss all those torpedoes, though. Somebody else actually takes him out before we can reload, so what do you know? This is not really a kill-securing ship, I guess. Nevada pointed nose in. We're going to shoot a couple volleys of armor piercing at him and get really, really lackluster results. I think the AP is better when the battleships are less angled. I mean, obviously. But frankly, the high explosive on this thing doesn't seem to be too impressive. It's got a 2.8K alpha strike, 2,800, and a 14% fire chance. Those might be really, really good numbers on guns that reloaded in, I don't know, significantly less time than 20 seconds, but with guns that take that long to reload, I don't know. It's not all that impressive. We're switching to the HE now. We can maybe take a sip of our coffee here while we're waiting for our guns to reload. On the bright side, since it takes the guns so long to reload, by the time they come back online, that's about the time your detectability goes back down to normal. Obviously, when you fire your main guns, your detectability blooms out and extends as far as your firing range, and then it takes 20 seconds for it to go back down to normal again, or just about 20 seconds, which is just about as long as this reload is. So every time your guns are reloaded, I guess you are just about to drop into stealth, or you are already in stealth, provided there's not a destroyer within 8 kilometers of you, so I guess that's good as well. Well, now that Nevada is finally giving us some broadsides so we can see how well this armor piercing is going to do against him, looks like he is hesitant to push into our base, which is good. There's another battleship out there headed this way as well. We don't want these guys to push into our base, and we do have some teammates up near the enemy base. Looks like 2 cruisers. There does appear to be a destroyer in those waters over there, as well as another cruiser, and I think a battleship at the map border, so I don't know, things are a little dicey. Anyway, we're concealed. The range on these guns is not terribly impressive, 13.2 kilometers, so it's very easy to get too far away. I don't know if this is common with other cruisers at this tier. Again, I'm really not playing tier 4 all that often, but it is a pretty short range, so you do have to get in there. Luckily, you know, you have that big stealth window with the very, very excellent concealment. We've got some of these Italian sea mines in the water starting their long, long journey toward this Nevada, but hopefully he will be dead before they reach him, although it's going to take us quite a while to take him down. Over a minute, just because of how long this gun reload is. There was a 20-second reload, now we've got another shot out, and he is not dead, so by the time this third volley loads in here, it will have been 40 seconds, nearly a minute. So like I said, my sort of carrying this game, I guess you could say, because we are going to kill the Nevada with that shot. My sort of carrying this game has a lot less to do with how good the ship is, and frankly, a lot more to do with the fact that I think these are obviously quite new players who are not too experienced in this game, so a little bit difficult for them to, I guess, find the necessary focus and actually shoot at me. This Nevada or New York had taken the time to actually start trying to focus me in earnest. I don't think there's any way I would be alive, and obviously I'm very, very close. We can see that the armor piercing is somewhat more effective at closer ranges on a broadside New York. Torpedoes out once more, at least we have those to throw out on basically every reload. And now we're gonna point the rear of our cruiser at the big old threat. If you ever feel like, you know, you're under too much pressure, just start kiting away. Point the rear of the ship at the big threat. That is kiting 101. 2 torpedoes hit that New York. It's not enough to kill him because, again, the alpha strike on these things is not impressive, but it did start a flood. Unfortunately, we can't really follow up with a fire in a timely fashion because, again, the reload is so oppressively long. But the New York, well, he is on his way back to port. Our battleship teammate has done a number to him, and we're going to be able to secure the kill with that shot there. That leaves 3 enemy ships left, and the enemy is ahead of us on points. They've got, well, I have no idea how you pronounce it. It's that new Tier 4 Russian destroyer, Subrazitilny or something. I don't know. The Subaru or something. He has a Kraken, so obviously he's doing pretty well, and we are kind of worried about him. We don't have a lot of health left, and we saw what happens when this ship gets into close-range duels with destroyers. It doesn't always work out well for it because of its slow reload, but if the destroyer's a potato, at least you could torpedo him, maybe, I guess. And then there's a Nuremberg, much higher rate of fire than we have, much higher DPM. Could melt us easily, probably, in the time it takes us to fire 2 salvos. And then another battleship, unknown at this time, can't remember what it is, have no idea how much health it has, so basically it looks like we could lose this game if the enemy doesn't try to win harder. They are ahead of us on points. They don't really have to fight us at all. They just need to make sure we don't get on their base, essentially. The sonar gives us advanced warning of the Subaru's torpedoes, and we're able to avoid his wide spreads there. Not exactly the ideal launch pattern, I would say, but we're given broadside to an area of the map where we suspect the cruiser or battleship might be, so we want to turn immediately. And indeed, there's the Nuremberg on no health. Unforced error on his part. There's no reason for him to die. His team was ahead on points, but with his sinking, now my team is ahead on points. So all I have to do, and all my battleship teammate have to do, is, of course, survive. No need to attempt to win harder. We are going to win this game within the next minute and 39 seconds, so long as we don't go down. So we know the Subaru is behind us somewhere. It's pretty difficult for destroyers to torpedo targets from behind. Drastically decreases their maximum range because the target's just getting further and further from it all the time. And also my battleship teammate is sailing away from the Subaru as well. So it looks like we are pretty safely going to win this game, barring any kind of catastrophic surprises, like the destroyer pops around one of those islands unexpectedly, spots me, and the battleship shoots me and kills me from across the map, but that is not going to happen. My closing thoughts on this rather unique Tier 4 Italian cruiser. It's probably not the most effective ship, probably not the most fun ship either, and I don't think I can recommend it. I think the only reason we did as well as we did in this game is because of the relative newness of the enemy team. And I think if you're playing against more experienced seal clubbers at Tier 4, they can probably make short work of this ship pretty quickly. The 20-second reload is a little bit ridiculous, even though this thing does have 203mm guns, whose AP is, as we've seen, capable of overmatching some Tier 4 cruisers. I just think the reload is too long. Maybe if this thing had SAP instead of high explosive, maybe then it would be better. It would probably almost certainly be better against destroyers anyway. We've seen on the past on this channel what SAP can do to destroyers thanks to my ability to play on WoW's PC, but anyway, I digress. I think this is kind of a mediocre ship. Probably wouldn't recommend it, but you know, this was a pretty decent game in the ship, so let me know what you think in the comments. Be sure to give the video a thumbs up before you go. Consider subscribing if you haven't already done that. I mean, we're on our way to 5,000 now, which is quite nice, so I thank you guys for all of your support, as always, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.